Homeschool planning with lots of kids can really start to be overwhelming if you don't know where to begin. So today I'm just going to share my process with you. I'm going to take you step by step. We're going to jump over on the computer. I'm going to show you which documents I use, and I'm going to get you squared away so that you can have confidence when you sit down to work out your homeschool plan for multiple kids. I'm Joy, and today I'm just really excited to share my process with you. So step number one is I print off the program. So whether it's Ambleside Online or the CMEC, I just get it all printed off. Then I just 3-hole punch it and slap it in a binder. And that's what I use to go through my house and see what books I already own. And then what I do is just start making stacks based on the child or the form, and really I'd go based on child. And then I kind of group the kids together who are in the same form. So a form, if you're not familiar in Charlotte Mason education, is kind of chunks of grades that you can kind of interchange a lot of it because they're kind of on the same developmental level. So for instance, Form 1 is 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Form 2 is 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Form 3 is 7th and 8th grade. Form 4 is 9th, and then I don't know exactly how far when Form 5 starts. Is 9th and 10th Form 4, and then 11th and 12th is 5. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure. My oldest is in Form 4, so I have students in 4 different forms this year. So step 3 is then I just order the books that we need, and I usually start based on my oldest students and the needs that they have. Now this year we're doing a time period we have not done before in our home. We're doing modern, and I had not really bought a lot of books there. So I actually ended up buying a lot more books to fill out my library in those different ages, but it was very heavy on my oldest students. My younger students didn't get as many new books to the family library, but they all are reading books that they themselves have not read. Okay, so once I have all of my books and I have them in their nice little stacks, that is when I do my year at a glance document. And I'm actually going to go through that document and just show you how it works and how it's related to my timetable. So as you can see, this is where I start. This is kind of my brain dump for organizing my subjects to align with my timetable. Now, my timetable, I'm going to show it to you. It's super complicated because I have so many people. But this allows me to look at each day of the week and figure out which subjects we're going to do. And then you'll notice I can take my subject and then I can know, okay, there's term 1, term 2, term 3, what this student is going to be reading independently. So I want for my kids to be able, especially 4th grade and older, to be able to have independent readings that they're working through on their own that I'm not able to get to read to them. But I need to tell them what to do and what readings and how much reading they need to do. And this is, for me, the best way to do it. So I start with this kind of brain dump situation where this is the year at a glance for each student. And I do this for every form. And then I break down based on the student. So like an older student in the same form might get a few different books. So I still have to do independent lists for each child. But this allows me to combine a lot more easily. So sometimes if kids are sharing books, I can swap out this section here, you know, that the story of the Air Force might be in term 3 for another student, whereas the Hudson Taylor might go to term 1 for another student. See, so that allows it to be a lot more just visually easier to get. Now, when I'm making this list, I've already done my book stack and I have my book stack next to me. And then I'm looking at each book and figuring out maybe if I've missed ordering a book so that it's just a lot easier. It's a tangible representation. It's a visual representation of something that I actually have. So from this kind of year at a glance list. And notice here, I've based it off of my timetable. And then I'm filling in the timetable sections with my books. This gets turned into this. And what this chart allows my students to do and allows me to do is go into more detail about what their readings need to be. So if there is a book that you really need to be reading like 10 pages a day or a week in order to stay on pace, then I'll say that. Sometimes it doesn't matter. But like this one, a lot of these, I wanted them to understand what the pacing needs to be so that they could get through it. Now, my younger students, it's more based on time, read for 20 minutes and then write for 10 minutes, something like that. But with my older students who are needing to be challenged, they needed some parameters, because sometimes I would have a student just blow through content and not really savor the information, not really give me a solid narration for the different sections. So this is allowing me to both challenge my students if they need it, just from hey, like you need to stay on pace. And it also allows me to slow down some of my students so that they can just go more deeply with the stories that they're reading and wrestle through some of the ideas instead of just blowing through everything. So then this also, you'll notice, is set up by day of the week, and it corresponds with, everything is based off of the timetable. And then, then we had the year at a glance, and then this kind of goes into more detail. And in fact, I thought about not doing the first one and just jumping to here. But this is, so let's see, how many pages is 1 week? So this 1 week for one whole term is 3 pages. So I just don't like that I can't see everything in one glance. It's just, I don't know, it hurts my head. So that's why I did the other way. Now I do the same thing for morning time. Morning time plans are broken up by day of the week. And I have already decided which subjects I want to do for morning time. So I like to do American history and geography and art, always, and literature. I like to have a fun literature read for morning time. And then I have my challenging subjects. So Plutarch, composition, grammar, those are all going to be included. And then we have some rhetoric as well for the older students that we're doing a co-op set up with. So that's kind of my framework. But then I need to know, I really just need my morning time plans to be set up so that during the school year, I can look at my plans and just obey them. Now we do take breaks. Every 6 weeks, we have about a 1 week off. And I might make some adjustments if I need to, but for the most part, I just set up the whole year and have anywhere from 24 to 30 weeks of plans for morning time. And it just kind of depends on what subject we're talking about. Some subjects are going to get the full 30 weeks and some subjects don't need all of that time. So that is how I set it up. And then you'll notice I'm telling myself about structure. We're not even concerned with chapters here for the Book of Marvels. I'm going based more on time. So I want us to look at the map for 5 minutes. I want us to read it for 15 minutes. And then we're going to go and sketch on our maps for 5 or 10 minutes. And then this is another link. This is a website that has videos for each one of the chapters in the Book of Marvels. So I just pull that up. And if we want to take a look, we go into that. And that really makes a much more dynamic experience with our geography. So once I have the morning time plans and the book charts in process. Now, they're not necessarily perfect, but I've got them rolling. If I need a break, the next step is creating the memory work document so that it can be printed. And what I've been doing is creating this in Google Drive and then having it, I convert it to a PDF and then I have it printed at my local print shop and I have it coil bound. It just makes it so much easier for everybody to handle for the whole year. And then I usually will keep a couple as a keepsake. So with my memory work, there's two things that I'm doing. I'm figuring out what passages, either poems or speeches, or even scripture, each child is memorizing. And then I go and I create a playlist for our folk songs and our hymns. And that is based off of either the CMEC or Ambleside Online and their folk song and hymn selections for the year. Use Spotify. And I can link to my Spotify list for the coming year down below. So once all of those documents are in order, they're still in draft mode. Then it's time to start organizing, tidying everything up, clearing everything out, and really trying to get the room ready for the next year. And this is actually when I start to break up the books based on term, and then I bind them in like a rubber band and I slap a sticky note on them and say, these are for term 1 for, Form 1 student, or I will put their name on it. That way I have my term 1, term 2, and term 3 books all set up for each child, because when term 2 comes, and it's going to come fast, I can just go grab those stacks of books for those children, and they're not just sitting out to be messed with and scattered hither and yon. I have them where they're supposed to be, and I'm actually keeping all of the books for the year in our closet. So that has been helpful. And actually I've done that. Even when we had like the teeny tiniest closet, I would still keep them in a bin and then just pull them out as needed, because it seemed like that was the safest place to keep the books for school. So the last two things I do is getting my logbook prepared and then printing anything off that I need printed off for the year. So what I've been doing as I am going through the planning process is if I see a file that I want to make sure I print. So maybe I've downloaded something. The CMEC has a ton of guides for Kinderleben or for different books. And I just create a folder on my computer, and it's just to print for that school year. And then I have it based off of folders in there. And then if I'm going to have one big binder that I'm going to print off, then all of that goes in there. But if I want to break them up into different sections, like if it's going to have, I don't know, if I'm going to coil bind just my memory binder, right, that'll have one set of documents. And then if it's just my history materials, that'll be another set, that'll be another folder. That way, when I go to upload everything onto, I've been using Office Max, I can just upload it, and then I know exactly what subject it's for, how many people need printings from that. Like, I haven't done our maps, so that's kind of, again, where all our maps would be, and then I would have all of that printed at once. And I like doing it this way because then well, that's all I have. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.